Welcome to the International Teacher Podcast with your hosts, Kent the Cat Guy, Jacqueline from JP Mint Consulting, Darian the Family Guy, and Greg the Single Guy, bringing you episodes from around the world about the best kept secret in teaching. You got it, international education. Welcome to the show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the International Teacher Podcast. I am riding solo today. I don't know if Greg will be showing up, and it'll be a happy surprise if he does. But right now, I am joined with Ken Bence, and he is calling us in from Budapest, Hungary. Good morning. Hi, Ken.
Good morning. Good afternoon, Jacqueline. It's great to be here, and thank you for having me on.
Awesome. So, Ken, I can already tell that you don't come from the US or Canada. Can you tell us a little bit about where you come from and how did you learn about international teaching?
So I'm from Liverpool originally, and then I come from a family of educators, and they told me many times in my teens and through university that I should become a teacher. And because I was a petulant teenager, that was the last thing I decided I wanted to do.
Of course.
My last year of university, a poster went up, and it was called a company called Flying Cows, and it said teach in South Korea. So I just thought that sounded cool, and I went, signed up, listened to the presentation. And then I graduated. I was working in Spain over the summer. And then I got a call saying, do you want to go work in South Korea? Me being 21 said yes, without knowing much else. And then I think about 2 weeks later, I landed in a tiny town in the south of Korea called Miryang. And I was working for a public middle school. And it was a great experience. After 2 weeks, I had that sudden realization of, oh no, everyone was right. And this is what I want to do. So from that point on, I decided to okay, how do I take this seriously? And how do I make this my career? And never looked back. That was over 18 years ago now, nearly 20 years.
So was that part of the EPIC program, or was this something separate?
I think, if I'm remembering right, there was EPIC and then there was JEPIC. And I was in the south, so I was JEPIC. But it's exactly the same. You worked for the government, the local education board.
That's what I was going to say. It sounds like when you're going into the public school system, it sounds like it's that program very similar to JET. A lot of our listeners might know JET program in Japan English teachers, I think. They go into public schools in Japan. But EPIC is the equivalent for going into government schools. And so you're not in an international school system, but you yourself are living internationally. And can you tell us a little bit about that first culture shock, or that first, those first impressions when you land in a country you've never visited and suddenly you're working there?
It was very long journey, and then I transferred in Seoul. I say I flew with two other guys who'd used the same company, never met them before.
Okay.
And then we were flying over Busan, which is a big city in the south, and all you saw was the neon lights. And if you were a child of the 80s and 90s, like I am, everything you knew about East Asia was those bright neon lights. So that was my first whoa. This is
like a
cool
video
moment.
Game, right? It's like, it feels like you're inside Tron or
Sonic the Hedgehog,
video game.
Yeah, exactly like that. And then it's fun. I don't know if I should share this, but I'll share it anyway. If people know me, they've heard this story. So I met my co-teacher, and he was this brilliant older guy, close to retirement, and incredibly hospitable, and just wanted me to experience South Korea as he was so proud of his country, which was brilliant for me. And he invited me to what was called a jjimjilbang, which is like a bathhouse sauna type
steam
thing.
House, yeah.
Yeah. So me being British, I showed up and then put my swimming trunks on, and then got quickly told, no, not allowed. So I was like, okay. And this is my co-worker, and now I'm in my birthday suit. And we were sat in a steam room, and then he was like, oh, did it? And went and grabbed people. he came back with 3 other men.
It's like, come on here.
Yeah.
Check this guy out.
One was the PE teacher, another was another English teacher, and the other guy was the vice principal of the school that I hadn't yet been to visit. But the first time I met my colleagues, we were without clothes. So that was a big culture shock of, I'm not in Kansas anymore.
Talk about being thrown into the deep end. So that was some of those your first impressions of Koreans was being naked in a steam room. And I've had that experience. I would say that I waited almost 3 full years before I had that experience in Korea in 99 after, being there for a number of years. I kept hearing about these things and I said, I don't think I'm going to be comfortable. But what I did was I waited until I was in Jeju on holidays by myself. And I went into one so that they were complete strangers. And before I knew it, women were scrubbing my back. They were like dumping the water over my head. They were like getting me all sudsy. And I didn't know who these people were. These women were lovely. They were just trying to show me like this, this is how you get all that dirt off, which I didn't think I was so dirty to begin with. But what an experience.
Yeah, that was my first and last ginger bong, I think. I can't remember another one. That was an experience in itself.
It didn't hold water. You did not want to go back and experience that again.
No, done that, bought the t-shirt, done.
And so you were there. How many years were you with this program or in this particular town?
I just did 2 years. And then I was like, let's take this seriously, did my PGCE, and then went back out to South Korea, but this time Busan in the big city for 2 years. And then I really wanted to use what I had. So then I got a job in Shanghai at a brand new school. We started off with just 4 first grade classes and quickly grew. I think it might now be the biggest bilingual school in Shanghai. It's absolutely huge. It has 3 or 4 campuses, but I was there from the very beginning. And that was how I got into leadership. So the school rapidly grew and it was just one of those, well, there's no one else. So I started to get into leadership from that point of view. But that was a great experience. And it was American curriculum school. I think as well, it was one of the first bilingual schools in Shanghai. The rules there are very strict about who can and can't go to different schools. So it's very early days. But yeah, Shanghai from South Korea. And I was 4 years in that school. So
in the 4 years you landed in China, you started out presumably as one of those grade 1 homeroom teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Completely new curriculum. I mean, American curriculum, you weren't probably teaching that in Korea, I would imagine.
No, so this was from TEFL teaching English as a foreign language to teaching full Common Core.
Math, science, the whole. And then when you stayed the year and then the second year, and presumably some people were moving in, some people were moving out as the school was growing, they turned to you and said, what was the first leadership position, like grade level leader or vice principal?
At first it was called head liaison. So with it being a bilingual school, I had meetings with the Chinese leadership, the school owners, and then my job was to sell that message, make that change happen with the expat staff. And then Common Core standards became, I think it was around for a few years before this, but this was the first time I became aware of it. So we were using standards from, I think it was Colorado State. And then Common Core came out and then they told me, hey, we need to make this happen. So from grades 1 to 12, we introduced Common Core and NGSS standards all the way through.
So by that time, there was a grade 1 to 12, because you said that you just started out with grade 1. So they must have expanded very quickly, not just one grade per year.
We exploded. We went grade 1 in our first year, and then second year, I think it was grade 1 through 8. And then the third year, they opened it up to 12.
And
it was rapid.
all that staff, who was hiring all that staff? Was that part of your responsibilities?
Yep. I just went in one day and got asked, "Can you interview?" And I said yes. And they
Always
just,
say yes. Always
yeah,
say yes. Jeff
no,
Lindstrom says,
absolutely.
always say yes.
Yeah, it's like fake it till you make it in a way with that. So I still remember my first interview. I hired him, but I was honest. I was just like, hey, just kind of figuring this out and hope you don't mind. And then it just became a conversation. And that's how I interview now
That's
ever since. Just keep it like a
amazing.
conversation, keep it relaxed, let them learn about me in the school as much as I want to learn about them. But yeah,
We
and then
often
hired.
talk about different interview styles, and you know, there's the checkbox list where you have a prescribed list of questions, and it's maybe on the one hand a pro is that you have a standardized intake system, you know, everyone goes through that. But the conversation interview style is so much nicer. It relaxes the candidate. You yourself, as an interviewer, you get relaxed as well. And it feels more natural because it's a give and take of information. As you said, they want to know as much about your school as you want to know about them. So it's a back and forth, almost like a tennis match. You know, it's like, okay, I hit the tennis over and now I receive and I hit.
Hmm. Absolutely. Helping them relax, I think, is key to really seeing how they fit in. Like,
Mm.
you know this as well with international schools, your first friends become your colleagues. So you do have to kind of build a team that way as well. Like, will they be partners of each other as they navigate this new country, new city, new school?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's really, to me, it's really important to help them relax and make sure that um, they're coming in with open eyes, and I'm making sure I'm making responsible decisions.
And so now I'm going to say only, you were only there for 4 years, but it just feels like and sounds like you were there for 20 years, you know, with the rapid growth and the different positions that you were, you know, going from homeroom teacher into leadership, but only there for 4 years. What made you think maybe it's time to look for something else?
Mhm. I was also at the time still a homeroom teacher. So I was doing all this
No,
on top of
no.
being a homeroom teacher. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I think I was burnt out. There was
Mm.
just a lot going on. And the school had reached a point where I felt comfortable stepping away because we'd put the structures and the systems in place where it wasn't all just reliant on me and a few people anymore. We had that whole team. So I enjoyed Common Core and I wanted to keep some of my leadership. I didn't want to leave the classroom fully yet, but I really wanted to experience working at a full IB school. So,
Mm.
as a lot of people listening and watching, they might know, it's pretty difficult to make that bridge over into IB if you're brand new to it. So, one way I did that was going to Kuwait, which a lot of people have not the most rosy picture of, but I kept an open mind and I absolutely loved my time there. So I ended up being a grade 1 PYP homeroom teacher. And then I was a K through 12 instructional coach. So that was fully out the
So
classroom.
you went from PYP homeroom a year or two and
Just
then
the
moved
year.
in just the one
Mm-hmm.
year, and they saw something in you and said, any chance you want to be a K to 12 instructional coach?
Yeah, it was lucky in a sense that I just pretty much introduced Common Core and NGSS
Mm.
across the gamut in this school I just left. And then with the IB framework as a school, they wanted to introduce the Common Core standards throughout the school.
Ah.
So I was like, oh, hey, I've done this. I've got many headaches from this, so I'm happy to help. And I think that's how it like spiraled into, hey, can you do this? And it was two principals, the middle school principal and the elementary school principal were very much like gently nudging me being a little bit reluctant because I didn't think being brand new to IB, I could do it. But like you said, they saw something that maybe I didn't see. So I'm very grateful to them. Like,
So
fantastic mentors.
you moved into this new quasi leadership position, right? I mean, instructional coach is in that sort of gray area. I would say middle leadership. And what was the feeling, the general feeling on staff? Because here's a guy just got in here a year ago, and now he's going to help me teach. Were you warmly received, or was there some sort of pushback at any point? I wonder.
With primary school teachers, they knew me. It was easy. It was, hey, like, we already had that trust. I think they knew that I wasn't there to tell them how to do their job. Then we were introducing a new literacy program, so that went from K through 8. So I just slowly started working with those people. So there wasn't like a, hey, who are you? It was more of a, hey, what's coaching? Because it was a brand new program. So it was a lot of trying to help people see what coaching was. If they felt like it could help them, great, let's work together. If not, we're still going to be running PD and workshops and things like that, and giving resources out where we think might help. And then from there, I got asked to help a theory of knowledge teacher. Like, he asked me to help him, like, come watch his class. And then that kind of spiraled into working with the college counseling department and working with the extended essay, that whole DP universe that is pretty high stakes. But that was, for me, that was a brilliant experience to get to like help teachers and be a true partnership, because it was, you're an expert in your field, your subject. I'm here to help you with the learning side of that, and let's make that work. So yeah, it was, again, Kuwait wouldn't have been on my radar, but it was a very, very significant moment of learning for me.
Yeah, and sometimes it just takes a few of those early adopters to change the culture of the school. If, you know, the TOK teacher reaching out to you, and then that went so well, he sort of spread the word saying, hey, this Ken knows some things, you should have him into your classroom. And then that can really blossom. How many years did you end up staying there at that school in Kuwait?
You're going to notice a theme with my my experience here. So 4 years again.
Well,
so,
that's all right. I mean,
yeah.
You know, we often say in the International Teacher Podcast that we've got, you know, we discourage the sort of backpacker look, the 2 years and done, 2 years and done, 2 years and done. It's really hard to overcome that. But 4 years and done, 4 years and done. No, this is great, because this is, you know, you're renewing your contract. It shows trust on the school side as well. They see that, you know, them offering a second contract and even a third contract in some cases, if it's 1 year each time. And so then we didn't talk about how you are finding your positions, in the sense of, are you going to job fairs? Because in the UK, I don't know. I know a lot of the job fairs are centered around the US. You know, I think of University of Northern Iowa, and a lot of the big search jobs are in the US. Are you going to the London job fair, or how are you finding these jobs?
At this point, no. I'm using, for Shanghai, it was a recruiter in China that I can't remember how I found them, but not a very big company, it was just like one guy. And for Kuwait, a friend of mine who I knew from Korea was leaving the school, and then knew that I was looking and gave my resume in, and then we like passed like ships in the night kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I think networking to me used to be almost like a dirty word. I didn't like the idea of networking, but the longer I've been in this game, the network is people you used to work with who you still keep in touch with. And it's just,
Yeah.
I know you've spoken on here before about the PTC. I have group chats with people from that, and it's not friends getting their friends jobs. It's just like, hey, this opportunity's here, and pointing you in that direction.
It's more announcements than anything, right? It's not nepotism or anything like that, where oh, because we took this course, now I'm going to get you a job. It's more like, hey, Ken, did you know that my school is looking for a position or for this position? And knowing that you still have to apply, you still have to interview, you still have to go through all the checkpoints, but it's more of an announcement network, right? Letting your network know you're looking, and then they're coming back to you, giving you some tips. When you left Kuwait, what was your process? Was it still using network?
So Kuwait was 2019. So, everyone knows what's about to happen. But
Yeah.
I signed up for Search Associates for the first time, and I've used them ever since, pretty much. But I went to the leadership fair in Bangkok.
That's another big one.
Yeah, it was, I think it was less intense than the huge ones because they have a cap on how many people and how many schools. But I left there with 9 offers. So everything from...
gosh.
Yeah, I was, it was just, I love the adrenaline of the fairs. It's just like interview on the Saturday, and then the Sunday. So second interviews, and then run to the airport, like
catch your flight.
Yeah, and then sleep for a few days as you come
This
down.
Is early on. I was thinking when you first said Bangkok, I was picturing the one in January, the huge one. But you said leadership. No. That's the one in October, November, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think that this year it was in Singapore, from what I understand. But yeah, this was in Bangkok, and yeah, I had offers. Most of them were coaching offers, and then I had. I don't want to say the names of the schools, but
no, that's fine.
Well-known school in India. It was a curriculum coordinator role, similar to what I was doing in Shanghai, but without the teaching element. And then a vice head of primary role. So 2 pretty different in what it would look like in the day-to-day. The vice head of primary role was in Shenzhen in China. So I just spoke to my mentors in Kuwait, the 2 principals. I was like, hey, it's like, which path am I going to take? And they both said they can see me more in the vice head of primary role. So that's the path I took, and no regrets, except that I ended up in China for COVID.
Yeah. But it's interesting that, so first of all, you went to your mentors because they had already gone through this, presumably in their career at some point. And what you say, 2 pathways. So the curriculum coordinator going to maybe curriculum leadership, and quite possibly like an assistant or a deputy head of school, kind of a K-12 role, way down the road. Or the vice head of primary, so sticking to that divisional leadership. And that's the path that you decided ultimately felt more comfortable or more familiar?
Honestly, neither felt comfortable. And I think I liked both options because I like a challenge. And this is a big leap. It was more like my 2 mentors, I trusted them and I felt like they knew me and how I worked really well, but they both understood those roles. So it's like, where do you think I would be best suited? And interesting, like, side note, you just said like back then it was like that pathway. It was like curriculum coordinator looking to that like curriculum director direction, or the other way where it's like vice principal, that side of things. I've been seeing a lot of jobs this year where it's vice head of division and then PYP coordinator or MYP coordinator, like a dual role. So I think it's really interesting how schools are moving in that direction. So
all right, let's take a moment for a little commercial about how to get in touch with us. You can, of course, find all 4 of us at the itpexpat.com. That's www.itpexpat.com.
Or you could also find us at email at internationalteacherpodcast@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
Or if you're into Facebook, we have a new Facebook group at www.facebook.com/groups/ITP-expat, where you can find all kinds of inside information about ITP expat.
You can also find us on Instagram at ITP Expats. That's with an S. ITP Expats is our handle.
All right, and thank you, listeners. We have over 100 countries represented by our listeners, and though we're not monetized, we are here for you, and we would like to thank all of you for listening. So let's get back to the show.
Oftentimes that vice principal role is sort of a catch-all role of something. So it's either going to go curriculum, like you say, PYP coordinator, or it can be, I think of like a secondary vice principal might be like dean of students, sort of the social emotional well-being. And then the divisional head, typically principal or head of secondary, is strictly admin, just very busy with the sort of the bird's eye view. But those vice principal roles or those assistant principal roles often have like a dual responsibility as far as part of teaching and learning, part of the evaluation of teachers, and we'll get into that as well, talking about, you know, how do you go about doing that, but then as well the curriculum or the student well-being piece. So you decided to go to Shenzhen. That was the one that you ultimately agreed, and then how was that returning to China after some time in the Middle East?
It was very bizarre with the COVID situation. I left England during the height of their lockdown, so it was that dystopian 6 feet away. Everyone's like got that anxiety. Landed in China, and it was like COVID never happened, and it was almost like a shock to be around people again, and people were wearing masks, but it was, compared to what I just left, it's very open. Shenzhen is like a different world to Shanghai. It's brand new, shiny, blue skies. It's right on the coast. Very, very, very clean. Not that Shanghai was dirty, but Shanghai was more that like rustic. You had the old colonial buildings in the French concession. But no, Shenzhen felt like a different world, and Hong Kong's right across the border, so there's that influence there as well. So it was back to China, but it felt very, very different.
When I first went to Shenzhen from Guangzhou, I was in Guangzhou. I felt like it was a bit like the Wizard of Oz, you know, entering Oz, you see these skyscrapers coming over maybe a hill or something, and you're like, whoa, very shiny, as you say, very technologically advanced. It felt like that was the tech hub of China, where a lot of the big tech companies from China were started in that city. You mentioned Hong Kong being right across. I was also in Guangzhou at that time, so I was all excited about, you know, weekends in Hong Kong or heading off to Macau. But when COVID hit, it was all shut down. No ferries, no trains.
Yeah. And as a British person, being so close but so far to Marks and Spencer's was a hardship.
You could not get to that grocery store after all.
No, I never did, actually. I moved from there to Chengdu. So I never got to go to Hong Kong straight from Shenzhen, because still COVID.
Yeah. So you took on the assistant vice principal, or sorry, the assistant of head of primary in Shenzhen. And it sounds like that was not 4 years and then Chengdu, or tell me a little bit about that.
So I was part of I was part of a network of schools, and it was another brand new school was Shenzhen. And then after a year or so, a year and a half, I was asked to interview for a principal role within the same network for their new school in Chengdu. So I did, and was offered the job. So I was with the same company for 4 years, but pretty much 2 years in one school, 2 years in the other one.
And Chengdu, remind me, is that Sichuan?
Yes.
Sichuan. So that's
Hmm.
the spicy province or the spicy
Yeah.
state of China.
Spicy capital, yeah.
And also where the pandas are.
Yep. The pandas and the giant Buddhas that are carved into the cliffside. That's like same province, like an hour away from Chengdu. So brilliant place to visit.
Yeah, yeah. Because I was trying to remember. I have been there with my parents, and I couldn't remember if that was Terracotta Warriors, but that's Xi'an, I think.
Xi'an, yeah.
Yeah, and then Chengdu has the pandas. What did it feel like to move down into more the provincial part of China, not the big cities? Although Chengdu's pretty big, but comparatively speaking, Shenzhen and Shanghai are massive.
Chengdu's still big, but I think for China, you're right. Shenzhen and Shanghai are just metropolises. My school there was, my role was a primary and ECE principal, so I had a lot more work to do. I was doing a doctorate at the time, and the school was also a boarding school. So it was a little bit out of the city, but that suited me fine with so much going on. What we used to do was we would do staycations in the city. So we would go in whenever I had a break, everyone would stay in hotels and then experience the city and then come back. So it was certainly different. I don't know if I would repeat that now that I'm free from studying, but it was, for me at that time, it was a perfect lifestyle. So
it was all about work and studying, and you didn't really go out much, as far as you didn't need the draw of a big city at that point, because you wanted to sort of hunker down.
And we were going on year 3, 4 of being locked in China because they closed the borders. So it was that kind of thing, like, just get through this contract, meet your goals here. Not that it was a hardship by any means, but it was just good for that time and place. And I think a lot of people felt the same there.
What I like about your story, Ken, is that you can really see the progression and what I talk about career baby steps, always looking for not lateral moves, but little steps forward, either new curriculum or new position or, new city, goes without saying, new city and new country, but those professional baby steps, as far as you went from TEFL to Common Core, from Common Core to IB, and then at the same time also progressively changing your title as far as assistant, and now you are the ECE, so early childhood education and primary head of this division. Where did you go from there, and how did you get your next position?
So my next position, I found it on, so I wasn't hard looking for jobs. It was just like, I'm going to see what's out there. I don't know if I'm going to renew. It was in that window where I didn't need to give my intentions back yet to the school in Chengdu. And a school popped up in Budapest, which is obviously where I am now. A British Cambridge curriculum school, which, even though I'm from the UK, I hadn't worked in a full UK curriculum school. Close to home, which felt good after COVID and just being able to come home when I wanted. I had a new nephew. My mom was turning 70. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to try. And then things just snowballed very quickly, and they ended up flying me out for interviews in November of last year. And then I was offered the interim senior director role. So it went from US Common Core 3-year-olds up to 11-year-olds of EC and primary. Now I'm working with grades 1 to grade 8. So 6-year-olds up to 14, 15-year-olds.
And what does interim mean? Does that mean temporarily you're going to take this position?
Yes, it's always been a temporary job. They had some internal changes before I arrived, which is how the opportunity came up. But then they found out they were getting their the Board of Education inspections were happening, which if anyone's been through that, I know the Middle East back home as well, it's an intense process. We were getting an audit for financials, a big, what's the word I can use? I feel like in international schools, there's peaks and waves of retention. So you might have excellent retention 1 year of teachers and leaders, and then for no reason other than people just reach their, like, you know what, time for something
time
new.
to go.
There's a big change. So that had happened. So and it's a newer school. So I think they just wanted someone to steady the waters. We were looking at getting a high school license as well. So to go from grade 9 and up. So just a lot to do, and making sure that I'm leaving it like the campsite rule. I'm leaving it in a better place than I found it. And we got through that rough patch, and they will continue to be successful, I'm sure. So this job, I actually leave here in 2 weeks' time. So before winter break, I'll be moving out from Budapest.
Oh my gosh. So it's interim, but interim even in the middle of the school year.
Mm-hmm.
So what is next then? That's the big question. Do you find a position starting in January? Have you been able to do that, or are you going to take a little break?
I looked for a January start, and I don't need a break, but I also I want to beat that 4-year rule. And with this being such a short stay, I am intentionally looking for somewhere longer term, and there isn't that many jobs with a January start. So I'm looking now for work at this point for July, August start. But no, that's part of the fun. Where I end up, who knows? But I'm going to be very methodical about any offers I get and walk through it and make sure it's the right decision for me and what I want next. But hopefully a divisional leadership, like a primary or secondary principal role, is the ideal for me, I think.
Well, I think what's really neat is you don't want to repeat the 4-year rule, and yet 4 years is fantastic. You know, from a recruiting standpoint, you putting in 4 years shows actually loyalty and longevity, but you want to actually stay longer than 4 years. So some school is going to be very, very lucky to have you at the helm for a good long stint. Tell me a little bit about what was the feeling from way back when so you said your parents and your family, teaching was in your blood, but when you ultimately said, I'm not coming back, so you went to Korea, they thought, oh, he's going to have a couple of fun years and then he's going to come back and settle maybe in Liverpool. What was that feeling when you said, no, actually, I think I'm going to stay out?
I think number one, to my face, my family are very supportive. What they say behind my back, they may panic a little bit, but I can't remember there being like that specific, like I knew teaching and working in education that I wanted to do that forever. And then I think it just snowballed into international. And then there was never an explicit, like, I'm never coming back. But I think it became obvious with my lifelong hatred of UK winters and the general weather in the UK, and seeing how the life that, like, this life isn't without its challenges, but we are very, very fortunate in, we're just going to go to Thailand for the long weekend. And we sacrifice a lot to be able to live the life that we live, I think. And I think my family, my friends back home see that. So it's like, he's happy. He's obviously not going to come back and be in this drudgery that is the British weather.
Yeah, I always say there's a little bit of a give and take. We give up some things for being overseas. but lifelong friendships hopefully remain. I remember, my gosh, I think it was about 25 years ago when I first moved overseas, and I came back and I said, I don't think I'm coming back. And if you want to get out of this friendship now, I completely understand. And both of my best friends kind of hit me upside the head and said, as if, and they're still my best friends. I still see them every single year that I can. I come back once, twice to Canada to see them. But I remember that moment where I let them know, like, this is it for me. I'm never going to live in Canada again in a full-time capacity. And if you want out now, get out now.
With those friends, do you have it that every time you meet up as well, it's like no time has passed?
No
and
time
it's
has
just picking
passed.
up where you left off. Yeah,
Well,
that's when you know.
especially with texting. And I mean, I probably talk to them every single day through texts and sharing of photos and things. So it does really feel like I'm there present. And so then when we do meet up, it's, yeah, as you say, there's no time has passed. And it's a blessing that we've been able to hold on to those friendships for so long with the distance that we've managed to cover.
Mm-hmm. And they get cool places to stay.
That's true. That's true. When they come and visit, that's true. Danny, I'm waiting for you to come to Mexico. She said she'll never come to Mexico, but she listens to the podcast. So maybe we can convince her still.
Yeah.
So
Danny, get to Mexico.
Danny, get to Mexico. So then you're at the process now. You've your school is knowing that you're leaving. What are some of the preparations to that move? I mean, in the sense, you don't know where you're ending up. Do you have to vacate your apartment, or do you have some kind of lease you can stay on if you want to?
Yep, I have a lease I can stay on if I want to. I think I'm pretty sure it's the most passports, but I'm not totally sure. Because I'm from the UK, my visa doesn't just get cancelled as well. It's not connected 100% to my employment, which in other countries it is. Once you leave, you have to get out, kind of thing. But I'm looking forward to Christmas at home, and my little nephew, who's almost 2 now, so he's fun. So I'm looking forward to that. January, I have schools lined up. I'm in the process of some schools, and then who knows? I'll see what's next. But yeah, I'll hopefully be busy. I want to do volunteer work, but whether that's in the UK for a little bit or abroad somewhere, watch this space, I guess. So.
Well, this kind of leads us to one of our questions is, what do you take? What are 3 things you take with you that make it feel like home when you land?
I love to cook. So I bring the spices, nothing fancy, just all the spices and herbs that I use, so I don't have to go hunting for them. Pillows and good bedding. That's what I always bring that with me. So like as soon as I get there.
That's a whole suitcase in itself.
Yeah, almost. But it's just that thing like, okay, I know I have somewhere to rest, I can eat. And then I have a folder that I've had since my first year, and it's notes that students and families have written me over the years. And then just cards that my family and stuff have given me as well. So if I'm homesick, that's what I open up. It's like, okay.
So it started off as a manila folder this small, and now I would imagine it's grown quite thick, but that's very precious.
Yeah, so they're my 3 things. So I need good food, I need good sleep, and I need reminders of good people. So that's where I leave it at that.
Awesome. What about some police stories, Ken? Have you ever had a run-in with any police while you've been overseas that you can share? That you can share. Let's underline that.
No, I don't know. I'm so boring. No, nothing. I saw that question on the preamp, but like, no, I don't have any, even
what
ones
about
that I can't
customs and any chances you've run into when you travel with
apparently
your...
I look like a drugs mule. The amount of times I get pulled aside for like extra inspection.
Not with the rubber glove snap.
No, not quite that
not
much.
that.
But
Okay.
like, you could almost guarantee, like, I'll be going through security, and I must look sketchy or something. But they always like do that extra bag search, and my friends traveling with me hate it because I always hold them up. So
they're
it's
like,
one of
come
those.
on, we've got a plane to catch.
Just
Where's
again.
Ken? Oh, Ken's in that other room again.
Yeah. But no, even when I land, it's like they do the random check as you leave in the airport, and they always pick me. It's like, why me? But I think it's maybe because...
No, sorry, go ahead.
No, I think because my guess is that I just look angry because I'm not the biggest fan of airports. I don't mind flying, but being in an airport, I can do without. So maybe it's just I look grumpy.
You're just keeping your head down there like, that guy's looking sketchy.
Yeah.
I remember the summer that I was studying in California, doing my master's in the summer, but I was living in Istanbul at the time. And I think it must have been that first summer when I had a J visa, which is the student visa for the US. I got on the first plane from Istanbul, and I can't remember, there was about 2 or 3 planes, and every airport I was flagged. And I said, is this because I live in Turkey? Because I just called it out. I mean, I'm a Canadian student in California, but what is the big circle on my boarding pass? It's Istanbul. I started off there. And
maybe that is it.
So I wonder if, coming in and out of Kuwait, or maybe that's also in your passport or in your file, they're saying, this guy, Middle East. But it's crazy because every time I was pulled into these, waiting rooms surrounded by people that looked like they'd been there for days, I was just super nervous about my next step. Like, I have a plane to catch in a couple of hours, but each time they were quite good about getting me on my way. But it did make me realize that, there are preconceived notions based on where you're coming from or where you lived that will flag you. But yeah, it's never any fun. And as you say, your friends are just saying, come on, we're trying to get this plane.
But yeah, no, that makes more sense than I just look sketchy. I like that better.
So, well, I want to say thanks so much for being my first solo interview. Greg and Kent and Darian have missed the boat on this one because I think it was really interesting. I really liked getting to know you. You offered a unique perspective, being a British teacher overseas, but not necessarily sticking with the British system. With your U.S. Common Core and your IB background and experience, it's been really interesting to get to know you. And I hope that wherever you land in the January or next summer, that you might consider coming back on the show to share your new location and your new voyage into, who knows, maybe I wouldn't say a new curriculum. I think you've ran out, maybe Australian, Singaporean, but, give us an update on where you land next.
Absolutely. And thanks again for bringing me on. And I'd love to come back and give you an update in the future.
Yay. Well, thanks so much. So this was another episode of the International Teacher Podcast. I'm Jacqueline from JP Mint Consulting, and Greg the single guy, Kent the cat guy, and Darian the family guy will hopefully be on our next show. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you. Bye-bye.